opposition, what's their strategy? Microwave glaring, fridge begins to hum. Out for domination, oh man, here they come. But I just wanna dance. Ooh yeah, take a chance, take a chance.
When are you gonna be in Chicago again? Like July?
The 17th. 17th.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You had a new machine on order.
Ooh, new machines. We like it. Okay, let me get the chat room up in here. And we're rolling right now. So hold on one second. Here we go. This is our new Friday AI theme song that I created with AI. It's about the robot uprising.
I haven't been listening to it.
Whoa.
Spinning under my feet, TV growls and starts to fight. Man, these robots ruin date night. Power lines are buzzing.
So stupid.
You write the lyrics, right? And then
Yes, I do.
so it like figures out the cadence of the lyrics.
Yeah. It takes it's a lot of work.
Have to be in like a poem format, like.
Yes. We'll talk about it on the air, so I'll bring up.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. There we go. All right, we're okay. I feel like we can fade that out and we can go straight to our guest scene with our dear friend Rob Glenn. Oh, he's off center. He's off kilter. That's my fault. Nope, I'll do it. I'll do it. It happens. There's just no two ways around it. People tend to have different screen sizes. It's just the nature of the beast. I got it. There we go.
My camera too.
It's good. It's an improvement. It looks good. Yeah.
It's a little warmer now.
Yes, it is. I was a bit washed out on my other one. This one freaked out, and then I tried to get a fix on it. Hold on. I think is my overhead light on? No.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also
right.
like, I used to
always
mirror
something.
myself so that it looked right on your screen, and now I'm not. So I'm gonna flip my screen around.
Oh, hold on, everybody. Hang on. Okay, go. Do it. Flip it.
No,
I'm
I'm
ready.
not gonna do it now.
Oh. Okay. Sorry. The song you guys heard as our theme song today was a song I wrote about a robot uprising where like I just want to dance as and make romance while the robots are destroying everything. And so it was just like a mix of like my lyrics for the chorus and stuff and like generating dumb lyrics and seeing which ones I liked from AI and then putting them in. But because I figured it should write its own like love song. Yeah. So, yeah.
So the lyrics are augmented by AI as well?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. The verse parts, the verse parts, because they were like, I was like, and I did it in ChatGPT where I was like, write me some verses for a song I have about the robot uprising, about like all your electronic devices turning on you. What would you say? Like that kind of thing. And so it wrote it for, it was just silly. So and I've been playing with that a bunch lately. We wrote a live on the air, a taco song for Donald Trump. Yeah.
I haven't been watching you as much as I know.
I understand.
Raise your tacos.
Nothing first.
Right. So, anyways, that was just, and again, the taco storyline, interestingly enough, and this is us drinking from the fire hose of news as we have, was, definitely an important thing to talk about. Definitely a thing, definitely affecting Wall Street trades in a very real sense and all that. But this Elon Musk stuff that happened yesterday, holy shiz kickle. That was a bunch of, flarn, filth, flarn flying around in this situation. So I don't know how much you caught of it yesterday, where you jumped in on the needle drop of it.
I'm well informed. I haven't seen anything today, but a couple of things. Just, I know your take on it for sure, but let me just say that, like, this is two people who effectively they're like fighting over creating a new reality.
Yes.
Using their own social media things that they have full control of, right?
Yes.
And it's almost like whose howitzer is bigger, like, who can twist the narrative to what they want it to be.
It's a propaganda war. It really is.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they have full control of the tool that's messaging it, which is the most, like, Elon Musk owns X. Like, he can make it say whatever he wants. And
he kicked Charlie Kirk off. He kicked off. He blocked Stephen Miller. So much for free speech, I guess. He's literally dumping his critics. This morning, I'll see if I can do this. Pull you in here real quick. Oh, this is the wrong window. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, while you're the other
say that, go ahead.
The other little thing I'm thinking about is, like, I did watch your show last night, or maybe it was at the early one, and I was pretty shocked at how the talking points of like 3 or 4 of the people you showed were almost exactly the same.
Oh yeah, they all got marching orders, no question. Right.
Yeah. So that was interesting to me, and the like the twisting of like these stories, like, the conspiracy theory. The most amazing thing about this thing is, like, it doesn't matter what is released. Nobody's going to believe what's released. Like, they've muddied it so much that let's say Trump isn't in it at all. Let's say, like, it's just a bunch of flight logs and that's it. They're going to release it, and a significant portion of people are going to say, well, they just hid it. It's actually still there, right?
Right.
They held it back. They redacted it. Like, if they wanted to say something, they're just going to automatically think it says whatever they think it says, and it won't matter what it actually is.
Yeah. Well, you've got a situation where, like, I guess the relationship with reality has been so messed with over time.
Exactly.
That they, I don't know what they do in this situation, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been talking about Hillary Clinton, drinking baby something or other, and, like this whole, like, child trafficking and thing. They've been talking about it for so long, and then all of a sudden, one of their 2 big people accuses their second big person of the same thing, and they're like, I don't know about that. Like,
Oh my God, the dodges that were happening yesterday and are happening this morning. Like, I watched the first hour of Glenn Beck's show this morning, and they could not move on fast enough. And same thing with Sean Hannity last night. They're going to just pretend it didn't happen. But this is not something that's just going to go away. It's just isn't.
Gonna, like, fester. It's been festering, and it's now like they've like taken, like, all the stories, and they're just twisted all up, and they don't even know which way to go with them anymore. Like, nobody does.
Yeah. So this is the furtherance of it. This is this morning. Musk launches furious retaliation against Steve Bannon for urging Trump to punish him. They've been at war for a little while. This was one of the MAGA clashes that was going on underneath the radar. But the question is, does this drive Trump back towards Steve Bannon, or are they both on the outs and it doesn't matter? And it becomes this, like, sniping around the periphery of Trump world, which is more than likely where I see this heading. But
it's all chaos. Like, there's no control. It's going to keep bouncing around. Another thing I noticed yesterday in the language is they were openly saying in the things you showed that Elon Musk bought Trump. I mean, they're openly saying
Yes.
Trump owes Elon because Elon bought his presidency.
Yeah.
And it's like this, that's just like the narrative. Like that's just a baked in thing.
Right.
And for how many years have we been talking about like lobbyists own Congress
Right.
and the corporation, big
Yeah.
corporate, whatever, owns everything.
And Republicans
like,
even have been
this
saying
guy-
that they borrowed that populist message all during Trump, even during his first run, where it's like, I'm rich, I don't need anybody's money, right? And yet the opposite was true. Like he was broke as shit and has made money hand over fist during both of his presidencies. He's turned this into a money-making enterprise for him. And we'll get to crypto in a little bit, regarding that as well. But yeah.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, everything is inside out, upside down, but like these two behemoths of essentially media, I guess Trump is like this sort of loose conglomeration of Truth Social and then his impact on all of the, whatever legacy media or corporate media, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then Musk just being Musk and having his own, X is its own animal. Like, I mean, it's considered a source for all those other news organizations, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's manipulated all to high hell. Like, we're just inside of our own, like I called it fan fiction. Like, whose fan fiction is going to win in the next
Yes. Yeah. And there's this competing fanfic world. Now, I got to say, I have a special insight into this because as somebody who is on a couple of different shows that have what you would call like fanfic potentiality, Queer as Folk being certainly one of them, entire books being written of fanfic about the show. The Lab Rats itself, all kinds of secondary fan fiction happened, theories abounding online and everywhere else about, what's happening behind the scenes. But the thing that, and I'm sure everybody in the chat room knows this, when a fight breaks out in the fanfic world, it's messy. It gets really weird. If people start breaking down, in chat rooms over Days of Our Lives, they get ugly. Like there could be blood feuds about this kind of stuff, and it's meaningless. Ultimately, it's people talking about things they like and stuff that they, like are optional in their lives, but not stuff that's crucial, like, Medicaid funding and stuff like that. Like that's no one's life is really riding on it. It's just people get into a fever pitch about nothing. If they can get into that kind of fever pitch about fictional shit, imagine where MAGA world is going to spiral over the next few days because there's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube.
Absolutely.
It just isn't.
Well, and that's my point is there's this quote unquote Epstein files that are being, I don't know, gathered or they exist in a room somewhere in a cabinet.
Talk about fanfic.
And Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are like arguing over like what to redact. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is like whatever that ends up being when somebody else sees it, it doesn't matter what it is. Because they're just going to make it whatever they want it to be.
Right.
Like they've already written the fan fiction of what the files are. It's crazy.
Well, they have to because it's all CYA at this point. I mean, I don't know how you, okay. We have known for a long time about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. They became friends in 1985, 86, and they were friends till 2004. And when they broke it off over a real estate deal. And then I personally believe that because of that real estate deal and because basically Epstein was getting too hot in terms of evidence gathering, Trump was definitely connected to the West Palm, I guess the government around there and the Florida government and all that stuff because as a rich guy who owned a big piece of property down there and was buying other pieces of property, he knows those guys. He's been, he golfs with them and all that shit. And it started, it was a known thing that they were building a case. It was a grand jury forming, all that stuff. And it wasn't a secret. And so he knew the heat was coming. So around 2004, that's allegedly when he stopped talking. We now know that there are actually phone logs where he called him at least a couple of times in 2005 on the regular. I think there's a very strong chance that Trump, to cover his own ass, was serving him up on a platter, was basically, trying to be a source for this thing. Like, I mean, everybody was talking about how Diddy was a Fed. Well, Diddy's a Fed, like, somebody who cuts a deal in the mob is a FBI informant, right? They don't get to that point until it's like, oh shit, if I don't roll or offer these guys something even beforehand, I'm going to get rolled up in this stuff. So the best thing to do is just start serving him up on a silver platter. So I think he played a part in that during the initial bit about it. That said, he was arrested federally while Trump was president. He died in prison, allegedly, while Trump was president. The raid on his island, where all the evidence was allegedly gathered, happened while Trump was president. And then, poof, right? Like, guy dead. Yeah. Ghislaine, the only time the evidence started showing up again was when Ghislaine Maxwell was on trial, and that's when the Biden administration, was, I guess, aiding in the lawsuit against her as the living, the sole perpetrator that was still alive, and in how they would divide up his empire to the victims. Right? That was what the Biden administration seemed to be focused on. Now, I think the whole thing, they should have constantly, personally, I think they should have constantly played up his relationship with Epstein every chance they got. Never let that should have been something. Just hammer the shit out of that, because again, it goes to judgment. Even if you're not saying he was an active pedophile with the guy, and I don't think he is. I think he, for all that case that Tara Dublin talks about. I think Trump is a mama's boy, and I think he likes playmate style women. I think he likes voluptuous women because that's his fixation. So I don't think he would be attracted to underage girls, but I think he would wait until Jeffrey Epstein was effectively done with them, had basically trained them to be, sexually submissive or fearful or used to being trafficked. And then, why did I turn gray all of a sudden? I started to fade. My contrast went out the window. I don't know what happened. I've lost some of my darkness. But I think he played a major part in, like, I think they were buddies for a very long time. And I know he was aware that Epstein was involved in this stuff. I just don't think he cared. And the one story they keep telling, and I don't know how many people, I have to keep saying this until people relay it to other people. This has got to spread like wildfire. Is that the story that he allegedly kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago? He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he hit on one of the girls that was there. Is not a good story, because he knew he was hitting on the girls that were at the local high schools, the poor trailer trash that he was rounding up and sending Ghislaine Maxwell out to basically harvest. He had no problem with him doing that. It wasn't until it might affect his bottom line, his membership, that he did it. And also, why was Virginia Giuffre underage working as a spa attendant, a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago? Like, there's all sorts of creepy stuff. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think these, like, it's basically page 6. Like, our lives are page 6 right now. Like a combination of page 6 and professional wrestling. And in the meantime, I'm serious. And I mean, the two big behemoths coming after each other, that's professional wrestling. And you like, if you start rooting for one side or the other, you get yourself all mixed up. All of a sudden you're pro Trump and anti Elon, and then back and forth, and that's the whole point. Like, you've got Democrats now, having to, like, talk about things that they've always talked about, but it's like in for Elon Musk, like, now Elon Musk is right and before he was wrong, and I don't know, it's crazy. So, like, to me, all this time we've got this big beautiful bill that's actually going to have impact, and I think that the answer is, like, it's like we're chasing these stories instead of getting out ahead of them. Like, we're just constantly just waiting for something to happen, as opposed to being,
it's reactive.
offensive.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that I've been thinking about this a lot, that in this day and age, a lot of we were talking a few weeks ago about paralleling some things to Ukraine, like, I've never been like, we're in war, fight, the war against, everything. But in situations that are asymmetrical like this, there's a lot to be learned from that. And, you know, Ukraine with this last operation was using effectively like Russia's infrastructure to deliver, instead of trying to get a cruise missile to go 2,500 miles or, you know, an airplane stealth to go over their airspace. They literally just drove a truck down their road until they were a couple miles away from the target, right?
Right.
And I still say that the solution for normal people, I'm not even going to say left and right anymore, because this is just fucking crazy. For normal people that just want to live their lives and go to their work and, you know, and live a life, it's almost like we have to use the existing infrastructure and try to get to that point, like be on Fox News on the offensive. And it's not going to happen by just scolding Republicans for being Republicans anymore, I don't think. And so, like, some of the ideas that I've thought about, like, for instance, the airplane, right?
Yes.
Trump Force One, right?
Right.
So Qatar's going to bribe him with an airplane, and the answer or the thing was this combative, like, oh my gosh, that's against the law, he can't do it. Well, another way to possibly go about that, if go on Fox News as a Democrat and say, I think he should have the plane. He just can't have it as Air Force One because we've already got one, but he can have the plane, and call it a bribe. Say, yeah, we can't stop him. Take the plane, Trump. I mean, Trump can't even afford the plane.
Right.
He can't afford to operate a 747.
No.
But park the thing in Palm Spring Airport.
And let it rot.
And let it rot. Let it sit
Yeah.
there and call it Bribe Force One. Like, get on Fox
Bribe
and say,
Force One. I love you,
serious.
Rob Glenn, and I want to have your babies. Bribe Force One is genius. Right.
You can, it's, the Congress is supposed to pass a law that's or it's supposed to approve a gift like that, right? So as, you know, Democrats who actually want to use the government for what it's supposed to be for, like, propose a law that says we want Trump to have the plane. Like,
Yes.
we don't want him to break the law. Give him the plane. Here's my law. It's going to say you
Right.
can have it.
But it's going to
you
be
just can't use
called.
it.
Yeah, right. You can't
And
use it for
call
official
the
purposes,
bill.
and it's you're responsible for its cost, upkeep, its licensing, its
Right.
whatever. Right. Yeah.
Call the bill. Trump can have Bribe Force One.
Yeah.
And so things like that, right?
Yes.
I think we've complained a lot about Musk and his obvious, like, he, you know, it's like he paid people to vote, right?
Yeah.
If we came up with like take how they figured out how he did it, right? He made corporations, he made LLCs, he like passed the money through all these dark areas. Just construct those things. And why can't Dems say, hey, we're gonna pay Dems to vote? And be like that audacious
Right.
to the point where you're mirroring
They have
what
to
they're
respond.
doing.
Right.
You're mirroring what they're doing, but you're doing it as a Democrat, right?
Yes.
So as Trump just does what he does, he's just trying to fill the space. Like, I think that there's another level of audacity that if we were on offense and did it in a way which was trying to like almost Andy Kaufman our way through the situation, you could find yourself on Fox News playing his WWF game or his Worldwide Wrestling game. Sorry. So
yeah.
these are the, like, in this situation, I'm just like, you know, they're going to fill the news with ridiculous shit.
Right.
And that's really upsetting to me that we're not talking about, you know, going into debt or deficit on this
Right.
bill that's sitting in the Senate right now, ready to, like, you know, blow up our deficit or in our debt that they've been saying for, you know, 15, 20 years was the most important thing ever. And here we are about to blow it up again, you know?
Yeah. Well, and again, that was what the fight initially broke out between Trump and Musk about, because it's
Right.
patently obvious in this regard. And I think the weirdest, I mean, we talk about this kind of like scotoma between the Trump world and the inability for them to just put him right next to Epstein because they were buddies forever. And it's just odd that that it didn't ring a bell for them, or what didn't matter. Like, it's so bizarre, it almost becomes noise. There's a similar kind of like, we care about something and then they act the exact opposite when it comes to fiscal responsibility in the budget. Like, they are spending this year is Biden's entire budget plus $220 billion. The budget he is putting forward, while it cuts essential services in a bunch of other areas, increases defense spending and a bunch of other spending, and again lowers revenue through tax cuts to people making over $5 million a year, largely, that will add to the debt at least $2.5 trillion over the next 2 years. And of course, stacking on top of that is the interest on the amount of that's accrued. Like, this is the worst time to take on more debt, at the very least, because it costs more than ever, right? Because of the like, the Fed is not going to be able to lower this the rate anytime soon, because Trump's own tariffs are going to be inflationary. So even the inflation reduction that is happening because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the targeted descent of inflation that was in that bill, and you can see it happening, it didn't change because Trump came in office, is going to go back up because of the cost of the tariffs. And so the Fed isn't going to want more money in circulation because they're lost in this idea that it's monetary inflation still, which is fucking weird. But so there's that inability to see the Epstein-Trump connection is the exact same brain fart that goes on in the entire maggot world right now. Between these guys ran on, we're going to, no big bills, nothing, none of these thousands of pages nobody's read, passed in the middle of the night, right? Which is exactly what the fucking BBB was. And that's what Musk was complaining about as they showed him the door over the course of a couple of weeks. And then and this is the part that the other part that I want to talk to you about, because I think this is more crucial than almost any other detail of this whole thing, is that in this rift between Trump and Musk, I must remind everyone, and I mentioned this yesterday on my little special report that I did when all this broke, that Elon Musk has placed operatives in every corner of Trump's administration. There are Doge operatives. Yeah, Doge is the deep state, and they operate all around Trump. And they are, if there's this, I don't know, again, his relation to Russia and all this other stuff is just crazy. If Trump's entire thing crashes, he could kill, like, OpenAI's deal with the Saudis and swoop in with Grok if he could crash the whole fucking thing. So all he's got to do is have a bunch of guys just waiting next to a thread and send them all a fucking eggplant emoji text, and they all do it at once.
Yeah. So effectively, it's Project 2025, and the people inserting the quote unquote, bureaucrats is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And they just gave him the keys for that.
Right.
So, to think that his direction is aligned with Trump it's madness. It's not. It's self-serving. Here we are, like, but what about you said this? What about the hypocrisy? Like, you get into these spots where, when faced with reality, the position completely flips around, and it just, like, it short circuits everybody, right? Because the messages, it's that concept of, like, right and left, like, no, like policy is right and left, but solutions aren't, or problems aren't, excuse me.
Right.
And so that's where I go to, like proving something's right or wrong. That's dead. Like, facts don't matter. Mm-hmm. And so,
they can't. I'll tell you what, they can't matter because the facts aren't on the side of the people who are selling all this shit right now. So if facts mattered at all, your entire argument goes up in smoke. There are a bunch of people on the fringes of the political spectrum that are facts averse because it will blow up their narrative. So they have to attack the like current facts or historical facts, whichever one gives them, you know, the most credo at the moment. But you can't function as a maggot right now if you have to confront facts. It doesn't work. So you have to attack them. It has to be all narrative.
Yeah. And so another concept I've started to throw around in my head is like, I wonder if it's time for the left to start thinking of themselves as conservatives. And
right.
I'm being serious about that because we're conserving Social Security.
We're conserving the environment. Yes, conservationists.
We're conserving
that's how
democracy.
Right.
Right. So right now, like I guess you could say what's happening is regressive, but they see it as progressive, right? Trump sees his changes and Musk sees these changes as progressive. Like we need to do this so we can, meet the future.
Right.
And the Democrats right now are like, hold up, wait, we got to keep what we had and add on to them, right? But keep what we had, conserve.
Right.
And so flipping that around, you can start to use the same language. And I think, in this, this attention economy that is being coined right now, like the only way to get out in front is for something as salacious and crazy as Musk calling Trump a pedophile. Like, I mean, you gotta meet that moment.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the way it is right now.
Yeah. You can't and I do think that like they tried to mock like Swalwell doing his talk, like eating a taco and swearing in his thing. But to some degree, like that's it made news. There are a bunch of videos that Democrats made drawing attention to this stuff. And his was the only one that made the rounds on both conservative media. And it kept that taco talking point, in circulation one more day. And
you're making a good point there. And that is that we're so concerned about looking right or being some, I don't know. And what Trump does is he like purposely looks stupid. He wants you to say he's stupid, right? Like he wants that. And so like, if you're
that's what the Canada stuff is about. That's what Greenland's about. That's what the Panama Canal stuff was about. Was like it just keeps the cycle of, and because he can say later I was just kidding. You look out of your mind because you treated it on the same level of which like him being friends with MBS and doing a fucking stablecoin deal with them. Yeah,
and so I think the message out of that is like, don't worry if you look dumb. Like look dumb. That's probably what's going to get you on the news.
That's so funny, right?
You've got to get into their megaphone. Like, it's not that crazy. I mentioned this before, like instead of recreating Joe Rogan, just turn Joe Rogan into a Democrat. And it's actually almost happening right now.
Yep. Right. Yeah. One of the things that has been showing up for people that don't know, one of the things that there's been a lot of reactions on the right about, and it's hard to find like short clips of them because they're afraid to release those clips for fear of Joe Rogan's audience coming. So it happens in their bigger episodes. So that's why I don't tend to grab them. We'll see if we can slice out a couple of them because they occasionally get posted online on Blue Sky or on X or whatever. But right now, like. There is a realization going on in Rogan world, apparently, that that there's a slippery slope between scooping up a guy and not checking if he has a criminal record or giving him due process, sending him to a gulag in El Salvador, and then doing it to an American because you say, well, this person's a murderer, and you don't like murder, do you? And sending that person off, and then by the time that you adjudicate it works its way through the courts. This dude's been in prison your entire term, right? Let's say the guy gets out. Maybe you take somebody, and this is like, let's take Trump's crypto thing, and there's somebody who's on to him, and they're a whistleblower or something, and they're just about to release their stuff, and Trump or his crowd gets wind of it, and what they do is they have some masked security dudes scoop him up, fly him to a gulag in El Salvador. There's this whole thing about you can't do that to an American citizen. Like, well, he's a murderer and we know it, and you don't. And he was threatening terrorism, and we have inside stuff that like CIA black site stuff in the United States. And you send him over there, and by the time let's say the guy doesn't get killed in prison, gets shivved because somebody paid to get rid of him, and he does make it back to the United States. By the time that's happened, Trump has already made his money in the crypto, moved it around so many times that you'll never get it back. And he's made himself $5 billion while this guy stewed into jail in El Salvador. That's a reality under the current law and the way Trump is carrying it out. And we know this. It's patently obvious. That's why we're against it. Also, we believe that people, just because they spout off a bunch of shit, that's not a reason to dump them out of the country. And you can't just scoop people up without due process. That's the law. But in MAGA world, it didn't matter until it could be them. And in Rogan world, he smokes so much fucking weed and he's bad at it that his paranoia kicks in. And he and Alex Jones have the same weed problem. They can't handle it. There are some people who just fucking can't handle it. And he's one of them. He thinks he can, and he does it all the time. And he's one of these people who can, depending on the strain or whatever it is, I don't know what the particulars of it are, but he gets into these windows where he has these paranoid revelations of oh shit, if this, then this. And oh fuck, we're already there. So we're already here. That's where he goes. And you can watch it happen in real time as he smokes with his guests, including Elon Musk.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so the crypto thing I think is interesting too, because, there's countless videos and experts and everybody's calling it a grift, and of course it is. Everybody knows it is, but it doesn't matter, right? He's just going to do it anyway. So
right.
Dems, Act Like Trump LLC starts Win for Dem coin, or Dem dark money coin, or just start your own fucking.
I'll go even better. Start one called the Donald. He doesn't have the rights to the Donald. So start a meme. That's
an interesting one. So purposely break his trademarks.
Yeah. Yes.
He's a public figure. You can use Trump. He's
right.
The president of the United States. So purposely break his trademarks and make it a point to get sued for it. And that's what he does. All of his lawsuits they're just marketing campaigns.
And,
that's all they are.
And again,
matter what happens.
Yes, shit. I'll now you're inspiring me. I might have to just go on one of those sites and make a stupid stable coin.
Dude, I can keep going. Sue CBS Paramount for $20 million for each interview they did with Donald Trump.
Yeah,
and
because they edited it
to release all of the unedited footage. Yeah, and just keep hammering it. Right.
Yeah.
Do Fox. Do them all at the same time. Do 100 of them. It doesn't matter. And do it in the same places. Go to where Elon Musk got into a court issue with his giving checks to voters, and go actually pay a voter to do something, get sued for it, and go to the same damn judge. Do it exactly like he did it.
Right.
And you don't think that the media on the right won't cover the left doing these crazy things? And instead of calling out hypocrisy, just fucking do it.
Right.
I'm dead serious.
And again, let yourself, in those cases, let yourself lose. Have to be forced to take the money back and refund it. And
your case is, I'm just doing it the way he did it. I don't understand.
And then pay the person that you were going to give it to a fee for being an actor in a political stunt later.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's actually a charity. This is all a charity. All I'm saying is we keep. The reason I called us conservatives is because we're also using the old ways of thinking about this.
Yes. Yes, we keep thinking about it like we're still bringing a knife to a gunfight in that regard. Materially, sure.
And the story has always been kind of like Citizens United is we don't or gerrymandering. We have to gerrymander. We have to do the bad thing to do the good thing because that's the way it is, right? And it's still kind of a moral dilemma, right? A lot of these things end up being a little bit of a moral dilemma. And so the way to maybe try to get over that hurdle is to do the bad thing, but name it specifically what you're doing. Name it,
Right.
breaking the law like Trump.com. I
Yes.
don't know. Like,
Yeah.
put his fucking name in it and be
Yeah.
clear about it.
Yes.
And when you're on anything, he doesn't hold back anything. He's like, yeah, of course I'm taking the plane. Of course
Yeah.
I'm taking the thing.
You'd
So
be stupid
go
not
with it.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be stupid not. So I put in your chat like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
like go get people, like go find old airplanes and line them up in Palm Beach Airport right next to Mar-a-Lago, and like right on the side, like you can have this plane if you keep Social Security. You
Right.
can have this plane.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Anyway.
yeah. This is, by the way, I would
This-
like to remind everybody real quick. So, good morning and welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings Megaworldwide. This is Friday Eye. That's Rob Glenn from Root Design in Chicago. And the great thing about Rob, besides his charm and affable nature and his genius, is the fact that he thinks like an engineer. And I think that is a big part of this. That you solve for the problem you know is coming, or the one that's in front of you with the tools you have. And you go, okay, I'm going to develop towards this thing where there might be a leap forward in the tools that I have, so I'll worry about that part of it later. But kind of like, it's one of the best things about the movie The Martian, is that the way he stays alive is he solves just the problem in front of him using what he has in reality around him. He doesn't question its morality or function or what other people would think is gross. He farms with the shit of the other astronauts. He takes the nuclear reactor out of the landing module that was there or that he dug up before, and he knows it's probably going to give him cancer, but he'll die a lot quicker without it.
I'm on Mars. I'm going to die
I'm on
anyway.
Mars. Yeah, I'm going to die in 300 days if, and we'll treat the cancer if it shows up later. And otherwise I'll freeze to death in this little capsule. So he makes a decision based on the reality that's in front of him to try and deal with this, that doesn't set him back, essentially. And at one point, he over-pressurizes the room, and there's a bad rig, and it blows up his farm, and he has to start from scratch again. And you're going to have those setbacks. You're going to do something stupid. Like at one point, he's trying to light the thing that creates condensation inside the space, and he has too much gas. He gets the math wrong on that, and it blows him back into the thing, and he's injured or whatever. Kind of like Iron Man when he's testing the flight boots the very first time, and he's like, okay, 2%, and he goes, fap, and falls down to the thing. That's going to happen. In Trump world, and this has to do, I think Musk does this as well. The reason they are comfortable doing it is because they've always had a cushion. I've always said that they've had a FAFO pillow their whole goddamn life. And we don't. So we tend to think in terms of be careful. But that shouldn't apply to areas where there is a sort of a no harm, no foul situation, right?
That's the big. I always say the big difference between being rich and poor is time. You can wait when you're rich, right? If the market dips, you just don't take it out until it comes back. Like it's the marshmallow thing, right? Like the study.
Yeah, one marshmallow versus two. Yeah, right. Delayed gratification.
So it's time, and they can wait. And when you're not rich and you gotta get to work and you don't have any money, then you gotta maybe sell some stock because you gotta cover your mortgage, right? So you have to do it when you have to do it. And yeah, I mean, there's a term in engineering, since you brought that up, fail fast. And so don't worry about failing. Just do it and move on, learn from it and move on and keep failing until you figure it out. And it's okay to fail. So the lawsuits, the trying of all this stuff, that's fail fast. That's what they're doing. And you can meet that with another thing. So I'll tell a story that's hopefully going to transition us to AI stuff.
Yes.
I always watch these, I think Smithsonian things about ships. And there was one about, I think it was a dreadnought. It was the first metal battleship made by Britain, I think it was. And the story, this guy said something, they were talking about it. It must have been in the 30s or maybe late, almost early 40s, whatever it was. And they said, so Britain was naval power, nobody could touch them. They were, just so far and above, just like the US is now to everybody else. And they said they invented this ship, and it was so good that it effectively made everything else they had obsolete. And so you think about that as like, wow, they were so far ahead, but their innovation actually leveled the playing field for everybody else. It didn't make them more powerful. It actually made it easier for everybody else to catch up, because all they had to do was start building copy their ship and start building that ship, right? So all of a sudden the innovation meant that Britain wasn't as far ahead as they were the day before they innovated it. And that's exactly what's happening right now with AI, with drones and warfare.
Yes.
Like, these innovations are actually taking away the hierarchy.
Yeah, I've said, like, it's amazing. I've never seen industry put themselves out of business so fast, because that's what AI growth is going to do. The democratization of intellect and available information, like, again, the offlining of these models, being able to carry around a pocket version of, being able to currently, as it stands, a lot of these models you could download, whether it's slow or not is immaterial. Because if you've got time and it doesn't matter and you're not reliant on anyone, you've effectively got the Library of Alexandria available to you, and it can talk and you can chat with it literally. And that's never been possible on Earth for a human being who wasn't, Merlin, much less, even a king of a country, the access. And even when they do, there is a hierarchical way that the information gets to you that is indirect. It is bled through people. Look at the cabinet, how that's laid out, and deputy secretaries and their staff and all that kind of stuff. As the information works its way through the telephone, it breaks down a little bit to the people who are charged, especially in Trump's case, with coming up with a way to tell him what they need to tell him in a way that he will actually hear it, if he's even capable of doing so. So that information is, in its natural form, even when you have all the access to it in the world, is still being shaped by the people around you. And if you wanted to go deeper, they would have to go back and find something and then come back to you. And whereas you and I've been using ChatGPT effectively as long as it's been out, and I subscribed to it as soon as they came out with the higher version. I have not subscribed to the ultimate version, because it's sort of like,
it's not worth it.
No, you know what it's like? It's like video games, kids. It's like, there was a period where when a new version of Call of Duty came out, there was still the rest of the game on the other one that was amazing, well thought out. It was a great game. It was hours and hours and hours of gameplay, and it's now $12. It's not $60 with a bunch of other shit. And so as a lifelong gamer, that's what I would do. I'm the frugal gamer. That'll be my new gig after Trump goes to the wayside. But you just play 1 gen or 2 gens behind something. It's still fun. Anybody who's ever played Pac-Man, after you haven't played it in a few years, you still get excited, and the graphics are shit. It's 8-bit and it's just lateral play, right? It's not that you can't get excited. It's about how much you care. So being on the cutting edge of gaming is, especially as it gets, like, look at the ray tracing, or the way the light glints off the water as you're running across a field to shoot somebody and to dome a fellow sniper, in Snipers Only or whatever on one of these games. Like, it doesn't matter all that much. It's that difference. We talk about the Rob Glenn rule, which is, it's good enough for 99% of people. It was already there. It was already last year when we started.
There the whole time.
Yes, and now
and
the new big ones are now coming down. They end up being the turnover rate is so fucking high that the new model that's amazing might only be a little bit better, but they dump the one just below it down into their free or cheap version on all of the services, whether it's Claude or whether it's ChatGPT, or it's Google's Gemini, the free version of Gemini, and those kind of things. And they all have, it's almost like they all have their strengths and weaknesses. And so if you just kind of have the free versions of them, or if you have like a Google email address, you basically get access to Gemini and all of its variants, but the super high level, right? Those kind of things.
One thing, Andrea asked you to look at staff chat, and then to your point, there was a story. I have two stories or two things I wanted to talk about
Substack
today.
is down. Okay, gotcha.
So there's a story. Google quietly releases an app that lets you download and run AI models locally. So Google has been doing like kind of behind the scenes, quiet. Open AI with ChatGPT is like probably the loudest.
Right.
And then Google's just sort of like doing it. They always kind of have been doing it.
Right.
It's always been behind the scenes in their search results. But since Google has the Android market / I mean, they essentially are Android. They've been making this like suite of tools. And we talked about the AI Studio that they released maybe 3 or 4 months ago. But they're currently, their direction is local AI.
Yes.
Is being like basically an app. Now, this is not easy to download and install now, but they made it possible for anybody who spends the time with their phone to effectively directly connect to Hugging Face and download any model they want from Hugging Face.
Right.
And that's it's not like a major, like crazy new thing. It's just it's a view into what they think the direction is. And we've been talking for a long time that the direction is going to be that it's embedded locally. It's embedded on your phone, on your computer. And
that it's basically eventually built into, it's effectively built into the NPU, the neural processing unit that will be part of your phone. It's going to be a chip that effectively has, like I've talked about, I think I have one here. So this camera. This is a little camera unit that goes with my Arduino stuff that I've been experimenting with. The difference between this, you could always get these little ribbon cameras for stuff. They've been around for a long time. In fact, this is the same lens, I think, that was on like 2 generations ago of the iPhone. Like you can just buy these, and if you wanted to build your own stupid phone, you could kind of do it if you had all the parts. You just have to get some sort of, I don't know, license or... I mean, if you'd used it for Wi-Fi instead of actually cell phone data, you could pretty much use it the same as a regular phone. The difference is this one has an AI, a minor AI model built into it that tracks faces and can separate vehicles and animals from human beings. It's built into this thing. So you don't need to send it up to the cloud and go, hey, is that a person? And it goes, yes, that's a person after running it through a thing. It's in the actual lens unit itself. It's on that little pin right there or it's actually like right below, there's right behind the screen, there's a little chip. And in that chip is a preloaded model, an AI model that does all those things beforehand. So you don't have to offload that work to your AI model, whatever that is. So it lessens the weight on what you would expect from the NPU in your phone, for example. So your lens has a chip in it that processes those kind of things. That's all it does. It just ciphers that stuff out so that this doesn't have to do it. It can do other things. It can handle the load on other things, which if every aspect of your thing, the microphone will also have a thing that separates voice from external sound, effectively noise, or can separate 2 voices talking into speaker 1, speaker 2, that kind of stuff. If that's built into the chip, which it is now, that's why your phone and your iPods have that voice, isolation in them, because it's built into the chip attached to the microphone. Then the chip itself in the phone doesn't have to do hardly anything compared to what you would have had to done on one of these bigger models. It now can just parse the chat version of it, how to talk back and forth, and the kind of glomming of all the information together. It can take, it just needs, I think it was Sherlock Holmes who said, data, 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 I cannot make bricks without clay. And that's what this Sherlock kind of thing is. Cynthia is asking, does it do Face ID? Yes, that's essentially what it does. Yes. The difference is, the lens in this will identify a face, and it will identify the details of your face. Your phone will then go, that's the face I like, because it will store the NPU on your phone stores the private security data that's only about your face. The chip in that, if somebody yanked the camera out of it and stole it, ran away with it, they wouldn't be able to download your security protocols that uses your phone to open apps. They wouldn't just be able to plug it into something else and just pretend like resend video images that had gone through there using some sort of cycling feature to open an old version of your phone. It wouldn't do that. That's in a different thing. But the camera itself does identify faces and specific faces. So you could materially train one if I wanted to. I could train that camera to recognize my face specifically, change the model that's in it, and upload it to that chip because it's a built-in program. So it could, like you could make it go from looking for all human faces to only looking for mine.
You're effectively you're effectively like locally training it.
Yes.
To recognize variations of yourself, if you will.
Yes, and we're back up on Substack, by the way. Thank you for helping fix that, Andrea. I don't know why it dropped out. It might be because some of the saucy names I've been giving things lately. I think they're like, ooh, look out, especially around Musk. Yeah.
So since you're talking about facial stuff, I found this interesting product. It's called betterpic.io. The word better, TTERPIC.io.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this for a second. So I've talked a lot about how it's actually you're going to start seeing solutions effectively, and the solutions need to like be easy and of value to you. And so this is one of the first things I've seen in a while that I was like, wow, like that's a really good combination of. So what this is you want a headshot, and you buy the service, which is about $20 to $40 depending on the quote unquote package. But they make the packages sound a lot like picture packages, like you went to a photographer. And so what you do is you upload pictures of yourself, and then it creates headshots of you. And the examples they give, I want to try it myself, but the examples they give are extremely convincing. And so they've taken this thing, which is training the AI. We've called it Lodi before, I think. Is what it's called, Lodi, and with yourself, and then it generates effectively pictures of you. You're like training it there, but you're using their service to do it as opposed to doing it locally. It kind of this is like a really good packaging of something of value. That's how I look at it, right? So for $30, I can have 5 headshots of myself, different, and they look professional, and it's pretty good. Like the examples they give.
I'll show you the example they give. This is, you take a selfie and you load it, and it makes a professional headshot out of it. So that's her selfie. That's his selfie. That's what they took. This guy's looks a little more AI than others, and I think it has to do with some of the lighting on it. It looks like almost kind of pixel, like a 3D animation. But this lady's looks pretty real. I can't tell which one is AI versus the other. You know what I mean? If you told me actually she took the one on the right herself and then plugged it in and she got this one, I'd almost believe it. So these are the two. Now, this narrowed this guy's face a little bit, which was good. You know, that sometimes it'll do that to make you look your face look longer.
I mean, I would like match those. I'd make that akin to using a Snapchat filter, using a filter on your phone to like make yourself look better, right? It's the same. You can get the same result. And
but the realism of it, you need this. There is a detail to this in that you can't, on a Snapchat filter, people end up with what we all call club ugly. Whereas like when you're at a club and the lights come on and you're like, whoa, who have I been dancing with, right? There's an element of, if you do a fake one and you don't look like that, and then you show up for the interview, they're going to go, what the fuck? Okay, go away. You don't look anything like this. You don't have a pinpoint chin and a teeny little nose and gigantic eyes, right? Like that, like it gets silly. But so these have to be, the crucial aspect of the training in these AIs is that they have to look like you. They've got to actually pass, the test so they look like you. So and this is the new version. Can I show you that? Okay, good.
No, like I was just going to say, a factor of this is you can upload multiple pictures of yourself.
Yes.
And the more that you upload, the more, I think the more accurate it gets is what I read.
Right.
At any rate, so go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, so I did one a little bit ago. This is early in the AI thing. So one of the things it could do was take, and I was like messing around with it just to see how they would work. And I've used a couple of them a few times. Like there's this Viking shot of me where I just look like an old man. And I just thought that one was hilarious. A lot of them in the early ones, the eyes are terrible. They hadn't fixed the eyes yet. So that was one of the things, like you do all this stuff and then they just wouldn't, whatever. So some of them, like here's one that actually looks fairly okay, looks like me, and it kind of gets my left ear is pierced and I have an earring in it, and so is my right, by the way, but it just left that one out and went with the left earring for some reason, because it looked up old pictures of me or something on the internet. I don't know what it was. Anyways, not bad. This one's a little closer. This one, all right, this one, I don't know what happened to my eye, like I look like I was punched by the same guy, or I don't know what it is. Like this is me a lot older and post stroke. I don't know what that is. This, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Again, this is these guys. That's not bad. I don't know where these Thanos ones come from. This is me with a mullet. That one's not too bad. That, I don't know what the fuck. That's me as a Newsmax host. I don't know how that happened. They just give you these random ones. You just pick all these things. Look at the eyes on this thing. Like, a lot of them are cross-eyed. I don't know how I became Matt Gaetz. This is like my Matt Gaetz impersonation. That one's pretty cool. It's a space cyborg thing, whatever. These were neat. These are fine, whatever. Pretty close there, too. It's just I had my hair back in a ponytail, so it thinks I slicked my hair back. So that's how it built all of these.
Sure.
Now... like a few of them turn out okay. These are hilarious. Like I don't know, Hal Sparks, the crazy Viking. I've got Cash Patel eyes. They all give you Cash Patel eyes. I don't know. This one's really cool. I was actually going to take this one and with those new models, turn it into a 3D model and print it. I don't know what I'm wearing in this one. It looks like a little crown. It's a crown, and I also have a little antenna coming out of my head. I don't know what the fuck that is. But there were a bunch of these, like some of them would be okay and some of them would just be stupid. But I ran them on basically all the models. I don't know who the fuck that is. This guy, that's me on Shark Tank. This is me blonde, which, I'm not against. This is me in Ready Player One, I guess, or something. There's me as a fat gnome. Yeah, I think they nailed it. I think that's what I would look like as a fat gnome. There's me, anyway, I don't know why I became a princess. The left eye always seems the hard part for it. The right eye in this one. Now there are other ones where you can recenter the eyes. Let me show you. Really, see if I can speed through to. I don't know what this was. Just me in the forest looking the other way, and that one looks. That's supposedly the most realistic. These are my glamour shots. Super weird. Oh, there it was. Yeah, this is when it started trying to deal with my hair down. So I put in some pictures with my hair down, and they all seem to look like I have a Jerry curl of some sort. And I posted one of these as a poster for. Yeah, look at the eyes on this one. Hello, ladies. What's going on? Yeah. So this is how far we've come. This is not bad. Like the art ones are okay. So this is what you're talking about, this better pick thing.
So
have to look realistic.
Thing to me is it's an interesting thing because it's like a packaged thing, right?
Yes.
It's not go install this thing and have the right computer, and it's just like, and it's like a service that you would go to quickly to do anyway. Like you would go to a photographer and get headshots, right?
Right.
It also needs to like look like you but reality is not always reality, right? Like people Photoshop their pictures all the time. They put filters on them. They do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it just has to be close enough, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. So I looked at this and I'm like $35 or $39. Like if I got 5 things I could put for
on a website or LinkedIn, right?
Sure. Website in a bio, like something like that. That's worth $35, right? And so all I'm getting at is like these things are packaged like uses of something that's happening on a server. And what's going to happen, going back to this locally run AI, is that stuff just blends right into, it'll automatically happen on your phone.
Right.
You won't even need the service because it doesn't even need to go to their server or whoever. I'm sure they're using, ChatGPT or Gemini
Sure.
or something else, Midjourney, whatever.
Flux, or yeah, right, or one of the
Yeah,
other
they're using
models.
probably some server somewhere. And like, I like to think about AI in this way. Like, what are the products? Like,
Yes.
what are the things that are just going to flow into our lives, and we won't even really say it's AI anymore. Like,
Right.
they're saying it's AI headshot generator because that's, like, from a marketing standpoint, that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
if you said, take a headshot with your iPhone and it'll put a studio background in behind you and make you look a little better, you would
Right.
just think you were taking a picture on your iPhone.
Right.
That would just be a feature of the iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, so that one's kind of interesting to me. And there was one more thing that I came across this
Sure.
week.
And I have a couple things
thought you
too.
would-
So, and by the way,
you might be interested in.
hit the like, share the show. Everybody on Substack and these others. I was just popping in there. There's where is it? Sorry, let me go over here. There it is. We've got our little chat happening here. It freezes. Don't worry about that. But people can ask questions. I want that. The basic package would work, says Cynthia Walker in there. There we go. So I asked them if they had any questions, and that was people are joining in there.
Are you
Okay,
looking
excellent.
for questions there?
No. I was.
Confused, like we're in that. Like
Yes.
we're doubled up.
Well, that you can't pull. Yeah, you can't pull out the chat. You can't pop the chat out in
Yeah, you
Substack
can.
yet. In Substack?
Oh, in Substack. Sorry.
Yeah, not yet.
I'm always on YouTube, so.
Yeah, YouTube you totally can. So you can do it with Twitch. You can do it everywhere except Substack right now. I don't know why, but they'll get it. They'll get it. It won't be hard.
So I have a quick story. I'll make it really quick. I was basically trying to do something, again, way outside of my abilities. I was trying to make something inside of a product called Unity. Unity is a game engine. It's like all the stuff on your phone, or not all, but a lot of stuff, games that you play on your phone, they're made in Unity. So I was trying to make something, and I was kind of like wrestling with it to make it work. And about, I don't know, 10 prompts in, the prompt changed to the first thing it did is it was making a zip file with like a full set of files in it to run.
Yeah, right.
And it told me it uploaded it to my website. So I manage, and so it has all my history.
Yeah.
And it knows that I do route design.
Yeah.
Maxwell June. So I have a website, maxwelljune.com, and it said, we did it, or I did it and uploaded it to maxwelljune.com/blah, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Wait, what?
You did?
You did?
Right.
So I know that thing didn't exist and I couldn't get there. Or it wouldn't be able to get there because I know my security well enough. But I was just like, I'm going to go look. I looked, it wasn't there. I looked so it didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it said it did. And it made me think like, that's interesting. I wonder if they're testing stuff like that in the background. Right. Okay. Then I basically was like, it's not there. You can't do that. And it said, oh, you're right. I didn't actually do that. But then it said, it told me what it was going to do. And at the end, it said, this will require me to run Unity locally and send you this file. So it basically went through this list suggesting that it was going to open the software on my computer, do the work in the software, save the file have it then save what it did to my computer, and then it would have not made and sent me the file. It would have literally have made it on my computer.
Right.
Which is pretty fascinating. Also, it wasn't able to do that.
Right.
Because I think after it said it was going to do that, I said, like, you can't do that. And it said, oh yeah, you're right. I can't do that. Here, I'll do it the other way. But it's two things that I kind of wonder, and it would make sense that the chat bots would if you want to know how to do, we've said Excel spreadsheets in the past. I don't know how to do this in Excel spreadsheet. Like, there's no reason why it can't just move your mouse and do it and show you right in front of you as it does it, right?
Yeah.
And, those things are coming.
Yep.
And
part of the reason why you might be running into that, and I want to single this out because you kind of mentioned it, but I want to be clear about this, is that one of the reasons why it might think it can do these things, or why it's answering that it did these things, is because behind the scenes they are building the model to be able to do these things. They haven't released that feature yet, but it doesn't know the feature isn't released yet in the app or in the website, so it stops it going out. But it thinks it did it because it's being trained that it's something it can do. So
Yeah. And so when I talk about like that level of assistance, if you will, that's when locally run AI is going to be very important to actually, for people to actually use it, because not many people are going to be okay, especially businesses are going to be okay with somebody's server somewhere else taking the reins of their computer and starting to do stuff that they might not be paying attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just see these as like, they're like little clues of where these things are going. And, I'm already using it maybe like at the limits of what it, what it can really do. And they're working on going a little further. And I'm here to say that the models themselves, the things that are trained, are good enough to do this stuff now. The thing that's holding it back is controls of accuracy. Like, they're really unable to control it. You've mentioned like Grok, like people getting on and talking to Grok, and it's sort of known as like, I guess they can control what the algorithm is in X, but they can't control the fact that Grok isn't controllable yet. So you can totally get around whatever they're trying to force it to say to you, or try to get it to say to you quite easily.
So a couple of things. We got a couple of questions in the chat, and I want to address those. The first one being, please ask Rob what role AI played in Operation Spiderweb, which was for those that don't know or haven't been caught up on this, Operation Spiderweb is the drone attack that Ukraine just did on Russia, where they hit 40 of these major nuclear bombers. That they have their big, long-range, high-altitude bombers. They destroyed 40 of them, which is like 36% of how many they have, if they're even telling the truth about the number of them that they have. In as far as 1,000 miles inside of Russia and Siberia, and a couple other, middle of the country and closer to Ukraine as well, by hitting them with multiple drone strikes. I know a bit about this too, but I don't know what you've heard, Rob, in terms of AI usage in that.
I have not heard any specific, like these were functions of this thing that that AI was. I can guess, but do you know? Have they actually documented it?
It has, yes, it has. But the Ukrainians have talked about it, and it goes towards that camera thing I was telling you about earlier. So one of the things that they run into is electronic interference patterns that are thrown up by these, these basically like anti-UAV batteries that they put up to create kind of like a wall of digital noise that makes drones fall out of the sky. And they have a range and a depth that they can go. And Ukraine got around it a couple of ways by creating relays that bounce the signal to them, so it keeps the signal strong. Right? The what? Sorry?
That's super clever, by the way.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Like, use your drones to daisy chain the signal. Like, super clever.
So what they did, though, and this is what really helped them, that's how they've been doing it across the battlefield. But for this one in particular, they were all programmed with, because they knew where these things were going to be. They knew that they would check in with their GPS position as soon as they were turned on. So the AI, they built this kind of directional thing, because each of them had a target, a specific type of airplane in the general zone that they were going to, based on a GPS coordinate, where they were and the direction they were going. And so what they did was, when they hit the interference wall, if they experienced interference, the AI would take over and use its calculations to continue its path through there, and then as soon as it was free again and it was not experiencing the the interference, the control would go back to the person who was operating it so that it could continue to fly it specifically. If that never stopped, the AI would fly to that area. It had been programmed to look for certain types of aircraft. That's why the AI targeting systems on these had been confused by the tires on top of these airplanes. That's why they put the tires on top of them, is to stop the AI targeting. It didn't work because all they did was, by the way, sometimes they put tires on it and like, okay, cool. Like it's so advanced now that it just doesn't work. And so that's why you were seeing all these planes with lots of tires on the roof or on the wings and all that shit. So the AI would just pick up. It was not meant to be a fully autonomous drone carrying out a strike, because it was too specific a target and there's too many elements. They might decide once they get there, oh shit, there's the bigger, newer plane. So fuck that. Let's hit this one. And they did in a couple of instances. When they hit some of these bases, they could destroy like one of these big nuke bombers fully if they wanted to. Or they could destroy 3 of these radar planes. So they park it near the middle plane and boom, because they're parked so close together, they knew that the wings, once they burst into flames on the one they hit, were so close to the other ones, which were also full of fuel, that they would blow up as well. And they did. They destroyed like 3 planes with one hit because of that. And that's why you would have a pilot making that decision. In this particular instance, there's no way an AI would make that kind of a creative decision or a group decision, reforming a target, unless you fed every aspect. If at some point you see these things, which we don't expect to see, then do this. You would never kind of have to talk it into that. It might have learned, the AI was working during this whole thing, it might have learned that, when they saw these planes, they would rather have 3 of those than 1 of these. And so the next time they fly those things, it's very possible that the AI they built might respond in this similar situation. But this point of it literally just, when it was interrupting the signal it was getting from the controller that was running it, instead, and they've been using these like fiber optic tethers as a way to push against that, but it's like a leash and it can only go so far. And then they leave behind this thread fiber optic cable. It snaps once it, and I guess they could wind it back. But I suppose if you wanted to, you could follow the thing back to wherever they launched the thing from, I suppose. But they didn't end up having to do that. This is their next big workaround. So they have trained this AI that if you experience this interference, continue on mission that we've programmed into you already. You're looking for this geographical location within this realm of area. You could give it a broad thing or a direct latitude, longitude that it will lock to. As soon as you'll continue on your directed path that you are on. And then once you reach the other side of it and you're free of this interference, then you reconnect with the GPS and make sure you're in the right position and continue heading towards your target from there if you have to correct it all or something like that. And
so it sounds
like the wind blew.
Majority of it is used in image recognition. It sounds like. So
yes,
I don't know if anyone.
But it's also on a pre-programmed control track. So it would go by I know my trajectory, I know my speed and distance, height, the altitude. So it will program based on those that, okay, I'm hit like this, I'm going east. This interference is telling me go west, go north, go south, go whatever. I will just, if I get that kind of interference, just lock in and keep going east. And then once it fades, make sure you are where you're supposed to be. If you're not, correct, because there's also wind and other factors. And then recorrect to go back towards where we want to go.
Yeah, so
it was incredible.
The actual, so our drones, our Predator drones and things like that, a person's not actually flying those all the time. Mm-hmm. They typically take off on their own. I guess they could be manned when they do, but they typically are just A to B. So go to this spot. And so they have GPS coordinate. And so they get to that spot and they just linger, or they loiter, I think is what they call it.
Right.
So those functions, it would seem to me that the AI in that situation would be augmenting their backup plans, essentially.
Right.
When, here's the plan, and then as things change in between, make decisions based on what we've learned before, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of that, so you're saying that Did they manually pilot them into the planes, or did they automatically
Yes.
go there themselves?
No, so they're on a track to do a certain thing, and there were basically like pilots for each of the ones that were in the attack zone. So they had a battery of people that operate. They did 117, so they've got maybe 100 operators, and then once they were done, then they're the ones that will take longer to fly or haven't left yet. And because they went in waves, they didn't all go at the same time. So the thing didn't open and they all flew out. There was a wave that went and then a second wave that went. And I have to say this. Okay, so there was one aspect of this that something the Ukrainians have done that stands out and that they have learned, quite frankly, and I know there'll be a flare up in the chat about this from the Israelis, which is they door knocked the Kerch Bridge. So when they sent that submarine drone to strike the base of the Kerch Bridge, before they did that, they sent autonomous AI drones that were not armed, that were carrying dummy bombs on them, towards the bridge, so that would fly around, that if you looked at them with binoculars would go, holy shit, they're coming, they have mortars on them, these things are going to land on the bridge and explode. And so the soldiers that guard it and all that kind of stuff, because this is a recurring problem that they have to deal with all the time, were shooting at those things. They closed the bridge, cleared the surface because these drones were coming, and so no one was on the bridge when it was struck by the submarine drone. This is a choice that Ukraine made. Yes, this is a choice that Ukraine made to guarantee no civilian casualties in this situation as best they could. Now, could somebody have just gone, fuck this, I'm going on vacation. It's time for me. It's summertime in Crimea, bitches, and drive on. Yeah, maybe. And could there have been fishing boats around it or something? I'm sure that's an issue, and it had fallen over and landed on them. There's you can't account for everything, but they did everything they could to go, hey, we're going to hit this spot, and we don't want any cars near it. So they triggered this response from the Russians that would close the bridge, which I thought was brilliant.
A couple of the facts that I thought were really interesting about this whole thing was, one, they said they've been planning it for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So the tech that they sent over there is got to be a certain amount old, right? It's not the newest stuff. So maybe it's 6, 8, 12 months old,
right?
Because they had to build it up and send it over there. That's pretty interesting to me. Did they talk about how they were able to control them? Like what signals they used? Did they use Starlink or
no?
how did they get the signal that far?
Yeah, well, they had the transmitters are in the trucks, so the trucks themselves. Okay. Yeah, so they had a satellite connection using
satellite to the truck.
To the truck.
I get it.
And this is like like satellite phone kind of stuff. Like they didn't rely on Starlink. They specifically had like military grade stuff that they have or they bought or they got from us or they got from Europe. That's, if you're, like the same way that you would communicate data from behind enemy lines, that's what they used. And so there were two of them. There were battery systems and these transmitter receivers in the trucks. And then the drones had a range of about 2 miles that they could go from the transmitter, about three miles really, but 2 miles that they could guarantee. So they got the trucks within 2 miles, and then they opened the top up. Some of them flew directly out, were direct launched. Others were catapulted to give them a burst so that they would go higher. They could have the same charge, same propellers, same size, but they would automatically be higher than the other ones so that they could go further as they descent with like lack of battery life. So you could make sure that they got the far end, let's say you can guarantee from here we can reach this end of the landing field and probably 500 yards in. We know we can make it halfway down their facility no matter what. Maybe we can make it all the way to the end, but we guarantee we can make it to the middle. Then you flick these other ones up, and as they get there and they start losing power, they'll go further down this way, and you still have like a glide path that you can blow. It's just so smart. So amazing.
Use the Russian cell network.
Yes, the Russian cell network. Well, they use the same satellites. Yeah. Because it was just it's a call-in thing. Like it's just satellite connector. Yeah. And that's what you would do if you were using a satellite phone behind enemy lines. You have an encrypted satellite phone that just uses whatever satellite pings the system. The system just doesn't know that you're sending military stuff. It's just getting a signal that bounces through. Now, could somebody with future AI parse through all the phone calls that are going through there and go, wait a second, maybe, like, that shouldn't be here. That's a number we don't recognize, perhaps, but it'll be over by then. But
really interesting stuff. And I mean, it's obviously like the future of warfare, and to like
absolutely
not be supporting Ukraine right now, to me, is silly, because it's a learning exercise. Like,
yes,
one, it's easy. It's an easy moral question. Like,
oh yeah,
help them out because they're being invaded by a country that's supposedly bigger and badder than they are.
Hostile force, right?
Right. But in helping them, you're basically going to learn how to defend yourself from these same problems, these same things that people, we're going to end up in these positions.
That's right.
Military.
By the way, I have a few things that I want to share with you, but there was also, let's see, one other question, which was, how advanced will AI be next year considering the exponential growth? Well, it'll be exponentially better in a lot of ways. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say that I think that, sorry, we're on top of each other. I think that the growth actually needs, like, they have to figure out how to control it better, how to make sure that it knows it's accurate. Like, so I think that the advancements are going to be, exactly. Well, also, like, it gets down a path and it thinks it's right, but it's not, and it speaks as if it knows what it's talking about. This it's the way a lot of people are, but anyway,
yes, I feel seen.
It sounds just like us.
Yeah,
I didn't say you. I meant us, like human beings.
Yeah, that's right.
My point is the advancements are going to be in, like, making it actually useful, because, like, it's, frankly, for like a normal person, it's not that useful yet, unless it's embedded in something and you don't know it's actually, quote unquote AI doing it. Yeah.
So there's a few areas where, like I said, we focus a lot, and I think a lot of people focus on the in-out version of the ChatGPT model, because that's the root of how it's done. But in actuality, there's a lot of AI stuff going on behind the scenes right now. I'll give you an example. So Regeneron, everybody remembers Regeneron, right? Like, Trump thought that was the name of the drug he took when he took the monoclonal antibodies for COVID when he had it. He felt great. All right. They have been using AI to craft new drug treatments, and they have discovered a therapy that is already past ape trials, has moved to human trials already. They're in a second generation of clinical trials. I didn't even heard about this until they had already reached the clinical trial level. That's how fast this happened. That people take what's effectively a version of Ozempic mixed with these two other MABs that they have created. And the people taking it have they've lost like 20 pounds and gained 9 pounds of muscle. So the loss of fat and the gaining of muscle with no androgenic effects, or I guess gynogenic effects or whatever. Like where when people take steroids, for instance, it's these are androgenics, and the way they give you muscles is they masculinize the body. So when women take them, they get genital deformations, they get hair on their face. It's not really that it gives you muscles. It makes you, it just beefs up your masculinity, your male, secondary sex characteristics really kick in. The problem is your body reacts to that and ups the estrogen, as anybody who's watched Fight Club knows. And so that's the problem with them over there. You get back knee and extra body hair, but you also get bitch tits and all that kind of stuff that they talk about when, in the weightlifting world around it. Well, this has all of the upside of a run of steroids and none of that negative effect. So if this ends up being the treatment, believe me, welcome to the new Viagra. Forget about it.
That's the biggest problem with Ozempic and the Mounjaro, like those drugs, they essentially melt away your muscle.
Yes. Well, that's
Why-
what they were trying to compensate for. That's what they were saying. Like, we
Yeah,
like
one
the
of the-
out, but you can only stay on it
I
for
was
so
gonna say, one
long,
of the biggest
or you
issues
just
with
wither.
using it is that you have to work out a lot and take a ton of ingest a
Protein.
ton of protein.
Yes.
Or else your body will just melt away.
So they know this, and so now they're coming up with a way to balance it out in that process. So that is directly related to, medically trained AIs with all of the available medical data that's in any computer in the entire world, because it's all basically free. Like, medical data, especially in clinical trials and medical papers and that kind of stuff, are free between, if Harvard wants to check with Cambridge, or if Cambridge wants to check with a drug company that ran a trial and you want to get approved for a drug, you have to file all this stuff. You have to release all that. It's all publicly available information. But there was no way up till now to have access to all that information, or know that there was access to be had, which I think is the key. Because a lot of times you might be working in this field and just not know, unless you're reading, the medical journals around that topic, and they happen to do an article about this test that's going on in Germany or in Belgium or in the US or in Mexico or whatever, and in those clinical trials, you go, oh, that applies to what I'm doing, and therefore, hey guys, can we share information? And they might go, fuck you, no, we're working with a private pharmaceutical company, we're not allowed to share this until we have to publish it. And they're like, damn it. You would have to know all this stuff. Now, if it's readily available, it's just there. Articles and the actual data and the linkage to it and all this stuff. Now, you obviously have to double check it, but that's what they're training these models on, is just every piece of available data in this thing. So this is the key with what you were talking about. If you want to make it better, you have to keep it from getting worse. And right now, that's one of the things that, because one way you improve is by expanding your skill. The other way you improve is getting rid of bad habits. Okay? I think we can all see that as a human being. That's necessary. There are two ways to make progress in life. Get rid of a bad habit, start a new good one, right? Well, if you're all new good ones, but one of them turns out to be bad later and you don't realize it until it's too late, that doesn't work out. So you have to go, oh, actually, that was a bad habit. That way we were wrong about that part. Take that out. So that's what they're doing as well. Right now, they're running these AI models. There was a group that started the CAPSA platform. Yeah. Can work with any machine learning model to detect and correct unreliable outputs in seconds. It works by modifying AI models to enable them to detect patterns in their data processing that indicate ambiguity, incompleteness, or bias. The idea is to take a model, wrap it in CAPSA, identify the uncertainties, failures of the model, and then enhance the model. So Themis AI is the company that was formed by these people from MIT and stuff. And this was a service that was bound to happen. This was something that, and again, once they start this, Themis AI to do this, then everybody else will go, oh shit, that'd be great to have. Create me a model that checks me like the way Themis does. Okay, So they put themselves out of business as fast as they go into business. But this is the key. This is the governor on the growth of AI, is making sure that it doesn't hallucinate itself into a bullshit circle. In the same way that human beings, we have this great track of scientific and intellectual knowledge and philosophical knowledge that we've carried forward in time that have gotten us very far along. But along with it is the Alex Joneses of the world, kind of, nutty mix of bad facts and fake news and crazy conspiracies that have mucked up that stuff that would arguably, if it had equal measure with the actual scientific advancements in life, would hold us back, right? It would act as a governor on us being able to move forward if we had to check in with Alex Jones's view of the world every time we wanted a new cell phone. If we had to check in with the Q people every time we wanted to go, okay, 5G is okay. Like, if we had to go through them, we'd be fucked. It would slow everything down, and not for any good reason. It's not because you're checking it against facts. You're checking it against insanity. So what they're trying to do is scoop the insanity out of these models that are based on these kind of bad habitual data circles that they get into. So that will be one of the reasons. And in answer to your question, just look at last year. Holy shit. Like, the difference in models this year versus last year is crazy go nuts. I tell you right now.
It's really hard to quantify, but I would say for sure that the quality of the answers that I get and the speed of it is quite different.
Yes.
I can't quantify how much better, but it's a lot.
So that's also, go ahead. Sorry. And then, no. Yeah.
I was going to say the interesting part about that is like in ChatGPT, there's like the levels of models. I don't even use the highest one. I think I dropped down 2 because the speed of the lower one, it's faster. The lower ones are faster. And even in the 2 or 2 down, it's still dramatically better than a year ago.
Yeah. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like that one drop below, you might want to run stuff. If something's a crucial detail and you're like, that doesn't sound right. Can you check that for me or give me a reference where you got that from? If you're not having the reasoning window open on these things to show you where it got its information from, where you can check its work. If you ask it again, like, tell me more about that piece of it, you'll see if it digs deeper and comes up with a real answer, or if it just makes something up out of whole cloth. And it's super easy to, in those rare instances where you're like, that sounds hinky, I want to double check that on my own. Hop into, Google and just Google it old fashioned just to see if articles come up about it, or, or go straight to the source that it's referencing on a different web browser and just see if it's there. Now, increasingly,
to that point, I think because we've made it into this all-knowing God-like figure.
Yeah,
we expect it to be right, and it's not feasible. Like, human beings aren't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course it's going to be wrong because it's giving you one answer. If I have to call up 5 people maybe that I know that are experts in this subject that I'm asking it, I'll probably get 5 different answers.
Yes.
And they'll probably be laced with opinions, right? So it's impossible for an LLM or a chat bot to give you the exact answer right, because there might not be a right answer. And so to grade it on that level, I think it's not unfair because it's not a human being, right? It keeps you from using it for what it's good for, I think, is the right way to think of it. So in terms of your thought process, your critical thinking, if you ask it something and it gives you an answer, a critical thinker will know when it's wrong. Not necessarily that it's wrong, but they'll start to see clues. Oh, that doesn't sound quite right. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I should ask about this. And I don't know, but in conversations with experts, I feel like it's kind of the same. Like, I've asked people that I thought should know something, and then they gave me an answer, and I'm like, well, what about this? And then they'll modify their answer. What about this? And they'll modify their answer. That's a human thing.
Yes. And these things are built on the history of human conversation about all these things. Like, these models are built on books that have been written. Some of them may have been 30% right and 70% wrong, or 50% wrong and 20% bullshit, or whatever, just rando, worthless, And so it's just grasping. And, again, the beginnings of these things started as advanced autofill, right? They started as these kind of giant leap forward. Let's see. And any other questions in Substack? I just want to make sure I'm checking and the like. Okay, good. I always have to check in with that, on that one, because it's separate from the rest of the chat. So a couple of things. One is the acquisition. We talked about this a little bit. The acquisition of this. I forget what the name. Johnny Ives' company.
Oh, Jonathan Ives. His company. He left Apple and effectively started a
marketing firm.
I think he originally called it a design agency.
Yeah, design agency, right.
Some sort of product development agency or something like that, but I don't know the name of it.
Yeah.
But it was, the money behind it is tech bro level kind of Pentaveret kind of
stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. And basically he was just bought up by OpenAI. And so one of the news stories, so this goes to that question that we were talking about, if I may, right here. OpenAI, Anthropic prepare for new era of AI products. And this is the Johnny Ives idea, and why I think also people are people are, especially around Apple, they're kind of like, oh, Apple's really behind in this kind of thing. And I got to say, they've always been pretty smart about like holding back and not putting too much junk into the process. They've been waiting until something solidifies as something that the public wants, and then going, here's our slightly better designed, tighter version of it that fits into our ecosystem and fits into your entire. I mean, they've got a lot more to think of. They have to move slower because they're bigger, and they can't wreck their thing by creating an entire production line that ends up going nowhere. Whereas OpenAI can afford to burn some stuff to get ahead because it's in direct competition with Anthropic and Grok and all these other folks. And specifically, OpenAI is moving into the world of wearables. So everybody knows, or maybe you don't, that in Nerd Halen, I wear Meta glasses. And by the 14th, all of our guys will be wearing them when we do a show, except I think Caleb, because he's prescription lenses. So we've got to get him a set, and then he's got to be able to replace the lenses. He's going to be able to do that on his own. But I don't know if he has time to do that between now and then. But the other guys will. So we'll be able to film what we're doing, live stream what we're doing, and call it Nerd Cam. And then we'll, using OBS or something else, we'll feed what's going through our glasses into like a live view of the show as it happens. It'd be kind of fun, whatever. Or when we're live at a venue and they can take a camera, we can hook them up to a laptop and they can just take the feed from one of our, just screen grab the view when we go to it and put it up Nerd Cam on the, whatever, that kind of thing when we're doing the show, which I think would be a fun part of it and great for us and whatever. But it also has Meta AI built into it. Now, I have no interest in using Meta AI. I just don't. If there's one of these models that I have the least interest in exploring, it's Meta AI. It's the one that creeps me out the most. I can't see any value in it because all the other ones do what it does better. And it just seems like it's there to glom people's Facebook information. I don't know. It just seems odd to me. But I can, just like taking a phone call through the speaker and the mic in it, talk to OpenAI. I can talk to ChatGPT using the chat feature or any of the other ones like it's a phone call. Just open it up and turn on the chat. And it'll use the mic in my glasses and the speaker in that, and I can talk to it. I can't tap on it and go, hey, Meta, and it'll start it up, but who cares? Like right now, that's fine for me. Eventually, what you're going to do is you're going to find these generic glasses somebody's going to make that allow you to pick what model you want or how you talk to it. And that one will be the one loaded in there to automatically trigger when you tap it, so you can pick whichever one. Or you can even say whichever one, like, hey, ChatGPT or hey, Claude, and it will go to the one that you want to speak to specifically, which would really be the shit, quite frankly. If that would be the thing, like tap it and whoever you ask for is there, would be genius. So anyways, beyond the glasses, there have been a couple of shit shots at creating some sort of device that ain't a phone, but is, not so cumbersome as to be wasteful, to buy it when you could just go to your phone. And so all of these guys are talking about how do we get people off their phones when using this stuff or when talking to somebody else. So if you're wanting to chat with somebody, go, hey, send a text message to da-da-da. And like you can do that on your Apple Watch right now. I think a wearable watch, Apple with a Siri-enabled watch will be probably the next biggest jump for them, with a local AI in your phone that's referenced through your watch. So you can just go to that one or whatever if you want it. They were going to put a camera on it. There's no real need for it, but they were talking about that for a while. So you could hold your watch up and show it something. Oh, hey, I'm looking at this thing. What do you see? Whatever. There's another pendant thing they've been talking about. This is probably where the Johnny Ives thing is going, where you would wear like a necklace around your neck, which would have 2 cameras in it and a microphone, and then I suppose 2 turntables and a microphone. I don't know, but it looked like the ones that I've seen mocked up look like a pack of Wrigley's gum, like about that big, which I think is too cumbersome for what it would do. And knowing like when you're working around and it just bouncing around or working out, I don't see that happening. I mean, what do you think, Rob Glenn, in terms of the best wearable all-on AI thing? The next big leap forward is going to be that always device. Glasses, headphones, we talked about that. Earbuds being the easy one a lot of times, as long as their battery doesn't run out and you can hear the outside world. I think the over-ear ones that those the whatever the naked the nothing headphones. They do the over ear things that you just wear all the time over your ear, and you wouldn't necessarily. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that it's going to be what they're saying that Ives and Newsom are going to do. I don't think it's going to be that pendant sort of badge kind of thing,
Right.
only because it looks too much like a body cam,
Right.
like it's like
Yeah.
a little too Big Brother. So to me, so I'm usually like a function first person. Like we wrap form around function as
Yes.
opposed to the opposite.
Yeah.
And so to me, like the use case isn't there yet. Like there's not a good there's not like a really obvious way to connect what it's doing to your sort of everyday life. And so
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the solution's actually going to come through our computer screen, our like desktop or laptop computer screen first.
Right.
And then the wearable is going to connect to whatever that experience is, because the experience on your phone is essentially a mobile version of your laptop. So
Right.
like I don't know I don't know what the use case is yet, is my point. So I
Right.
can't say. And
Yeah.
and we're running up against some very, there are laws against recording people
Yeah.
without their consent in most
Right.
states, as for instance. So like, how do you? It's got to always be on, right? Like, so in my use on my computer, like, I actually want it to know everything that I'm working on.
Sure. Yes.
But as a business owner that has NDAs with companies, I can't, right?
Right.
Like I don't, if I'm at work, it's not personal. I don't
Yeah.
care if there's like a sentient AI on my computer, like
Yeah.
paying attention, so that if I was like, hey, where did I put that file? Oh, it's right there. Boom, done. Right.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to copy paste?
Especially your work computer. Right. I agree. I think that you might be in a situation really getting to that like separation between work and home computer, that the work computer would be the thing that you would want it on. And then the home computer, you would either want a localized AI built into it that doesn't ever go to the internet, that is only for the files that are on there and that is private to you. And right.
Yeah. What my point is like, there has to be something that's happening that other people want to do. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's amazing. So why did a cell phone work? Well, I just want to make a call. Like if before that there were beepers, the beeper went off and you went to a payphone. Like, I just want to call, right? And then it was like, it's amazing that there's a phone inside your car, on the
Right.
console, and then
Yeah.
it went into your pocket. That's another amazing thing. Like I have yet to see the amazing jump yet. However,
Right.
where I start to see the things in my own life is in like I've done a lot of things in the multimodal world, and by that I mean multimodal is like vision, listening, and typing, like hand typing, like I'll put a screenshot in
Yeah.
I'll just copy paste it into the chat, and then I'll say something about it. It's extremely good at that. It's extremely good at, a lot of times I'll put a web address in it,
Sure.
go to this page and give me this information. And so I started to think about it as like, what is my institutional knowledge, and how can I like create a bucket of that I can access anytime I want. And
Yes.
and so those are the types of things that so like that's just me personally. Like I
Sure.
see there's sort of an amazement factor to that concept of, where did I put that? And I just call it what I call it.
Right.
And it knows that it's this other thing that I might have called it different before. Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yes.
that amazement is like, how does that translate into I'm walking down the street or I'm driving my car? Like, how does that work? And and to me, it has to be right now. It has to be tied to an action, like a
Yeah.
physical action or device or physical thing. Does that make
Right.
sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. So there is
So
right now. Yeah, let me show you something real
yeah.
quick. I see. I'm trying to show without showing. That's always the issue with showing
I hear you,
the
man.
settings behind the scenes of stuff. So you don't want to give away your email address or other stuff like that on air and all whatever. That's always something I run up against. So there is a thing. Yeah, here I'll just show you in here. I don't know if I could stretch this window out or not. Yeah, there we go. In ChatGPT now. And it's called work. Yeah, here it is. Enable work with apps. Right here.
Yeah.
So initially, there were a few things in ChatGPT where you would ask it something. I'll make a new chat and I'll see if I can show you this, whatever. Hide this over here, shrink this down so I could fit it on the screen. And there is let's see, in here, on the bottom of the screen, there, here's a World Wide Web thing, which was like, search the web for something. This is a deep research thing. If you want to click on that, that makes sure that it shows you the work that it's doing. This is the one that I think a lot of stuff is like leaning towards, where you're talking about. And then this is the model right here. Pick a model or GPT specifically. You can do it from there. You can do it from the top of the chat. But when you click on this, these are the things that it will work with currently. And on here, it'll work with Notion because I've added that because I have Notion. And then notes on the Mac, script editor, terminal, and text edit, and then Xcode, which is where you can code stuff and then insert code and stuff, which is great. But it's also the crazier part. Like this is way more concerning about it going south in my estimate than whether or not it gets mucked up and creates the wrong page in Notion or screws up something from that data. I can always remedy that myself, right? But
You mean writing code for mission critical something or others?
well, yeah, I mean, it can open the terminal. I have to open these, but if I have terminal open and Xcode open, it can basically draft code if I ask it to, and then go, hey, work on this. And if I just leave it alone, and then it starts loading it into Xcode, and then it can work. It can open up my terminal and then program straight to the memory of my computer. So that would be way more hinky to me if something could go south.
So I just described that situation that it asked me to do that, and honestly, like that would have been magical. I would have said okay if it would have actually been able to do it, but it said, can I open this and work straight in it? I would have totally said okay. I'm fine with that. And we talk about like humans always are part of the process. They're going to have to be for a long time. And so I don't know, like it's this idea of like how do you, to me, the magical part is I can access any part of my past, things that I thought were mundane. Somebody said a phone number to me and I wish I would have remembered that. Or somebody mentioned a product or a company or a food or something. I wish I would have remembered that. At the moment, it didn't seem important, but now I want to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
If something was literally always listening, kind of like, like those off the shelf security cameras, they're always recording.
Right.
And then if it sees motion, it records for that period of time and it like goes back and forward a little bit. But it's not always recording. It's only recording for a period of time. It's kind of like that, where if that was happening and you could be like, I remember I was talking to Sue and she said something about this and it was kind of around this time. I've actually spoken to ChatGPT written to ChatGPT like that. And it was fully capable of finding that information.
Right.
And in a concise, quick way, right?
Right.
So how does that concept, like for all of life, enter into our lives? and it's hard to envision what that is without it being a
I'll tell
body
you.
cam,
I'll tell you how I'll tell you how easy it is for me. Okay. I'll tell you. First of all, I want to point out. Eileen said she goes, "I'm ready for an implanted or pierced device." Piercings are a great way for a permanent device.
Yes.
An earring that that gathered data for you all the time would be terrific. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
I would rather have a like an Aura earring than because I sleep with my earrings in anyways. I would rather have an Aura earring than a ring itself because I don't have to take these things off.
Yeah.
Right.
So the
Let's see.
idea
You have
of a
people in your chat saying rich people should pay everything for everyone. What? No, I don't. You're a silly person. Let me jump on kind of what you're saying in terms of this. I think the closest thing is not a pendant and it isn't visual recording because that's always the tricky part of it. Audio listening is not as invasive. And look, if I'm listening, the assumption that I'm recording what we're hearing, you could literally go, hey, I can see that thing in your ear. Take it out. Let's talk. There'd be an element of you'd want some level of privacy. And I'm sure at places where they're like, this is a no digital party. So can you please put your digital devices in this, in these Faraday, envelopes or whatever. You can do that if you have a dinner party and you don't want this kind of stuff. I think that's completely reasonable. But I think the first thing it's going to be is much closer to this. Now, I've shown this before.
I would agree. Over ear is a solid choice.
So this has a little you could tap on the outside of it. This is basically the Nothing company, but there are a bunch of different variations on this. But this is the first company that's had direct ChatGPT integration into their devices. That's why I got them. I gave them as Christmas gifts because they weren't that expensive. So I got one for Ethan, my girlfriend's, because he was looking for some good earbuds, and I was like, oh, this is a nice extra thing or whatever. But this is like earbuds themselves, like a cheap pair of earbuds, like a Wicked Bandito, which I used to work out with, which is like $29. You still could just add a button, and then in the app, they all have an app with them. Assign whatever chat bot you want to use, whatever AI you want to use, to your regular headphones, and then assign it to one of the taps because they all have reassignable 2 taps, fast forwards a track, 1 tap, pause, whatever, answer a call, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so they all have that. Even the cheapest shitty earbuds have that ability. They also, look at how Apple AirPods became a style feature, even for right-wingers who are against big tech and think Apple is gay. They all are wearing them because that shows you got the best ones that work for you and all that stuff. And they wear them outwardly, so you can see that they're wearing them. It's a show-off feature of having those buds, right? Just like the Beat headphones or whatever are a big part of that. Skull Candy Sishu is saying in the chat room, I have a bunch of those because I've been on the road before and forgot to bring my headphones for live streaming, and I don't want to buy a new pair of Apple ones that pair to everything. So I'll buy the cheap kind and just pair them to my headphone to my laptop, and I have those in the bag as backups in case, right? So, but you could program most of these things. It would take next to nothing. And so for them to put out their own over ear piece that is bone conductive, that doesn't go in your actual ear canal, that's for these kind of things. It's low volume. It's not meant to be used like headphones, which is, again, kids don't have the social issue with it that most Gen Xers and older have, but it's going to be a hard thing to shake. An over the ear thing that dangles sends signal right into your jawbone right here, or your cheekbone. Would work just fine for most people. And the same thing with this behind here. If it was sending the bass into the bone behind, that's how it does it, by the way. It says the bone, this is like a little bass woofer back here. So the sound is very full. This is not an ad for nothing. I don't get any money from them. But this is how, there are a bunch of models like this. But assigning these to your AI of choice would not be hard at all, and maybe can become, I think, the first integration of audio integration of the world around you, especially the ones that can hear the outside world, let a certain amount of audio, pass into your ear, can even augment things. That's the other thing too. Is hey, what's that person over there saying? And it will scan across and go stop. And it works like a directional hearing aid because it will isolate wherever you're not directly looking at it, and they go, okay, hold that person. Then you could turn your head and it would still be listening to them at that position. That's available now. I'd like to say for the record, the Defense Department and the CIA and all those guys have that now. They already have it. There are rich people who have headphones like this that have already been tweaked to do that. That's going to be a regular market thing, just like noise canceling and voice isolating AirPods are available now. They're $200. They'll be $150. They'll be $100. They'll be $80. And then if they're made by robots, they'll be $10. It's just really.
So these are like conventions that or fashion style. Like, so back in the 80s, there were Walkman and people would walk around with over-ear earphones. Right? And then, like a person walking that way, they were doing that. And then the Bluetooth kind of thing, and you were an asshole if you had that, right? Like it started at like you were at work and they had overhead earphones and you were you use the phone a lot at work. That's totally acceptable. But if you walked outside with that connected to your cell phone, you'd look like an idiot, and nobody did that, right?
Right.
So then they switched to these Bluetooth things, and there were some instances where you would be fine wearing that. Nobody would think any different. And then other instances where you were like an asshole. You were that jerk, right?
Yeah. It was always like the guy like gold chains, and he had like a track suit on, and he's got this headphone in like, hey, we're going to do something. What are you guys doing? Shut the fuck up. And like that, like they're still on the phone with somebody at the same time.
Yeah, like what changed from that to today when you can have a earbud in your ear all the time? I mean, kids, my high schoolers have earbuds in all the time, right?
All the time, right.
So there was sort of social things that changed in between. Maybe you could argue that the iPod the iPod with the wire and the buds, and then that became wireless. Like that was kind of what brought us past the Bluetooth device that used to be like kind of big, and now it's just there. My point is to say that like the function, like before it became your fashionably acceptable, there had to be a reason why more people would just wear the things not caring that somebody thought they were an asshole, right? Because the function was good enough to overcome that thing, right? So
you were missing out, and then like even further than that, like I'm wearing these, I know because I'm ahead of the game, and if you have a problem with this, that's because you're old school, man. You don't know what's up, right?
So the thing that switched that was listening to music as opposed to just being on the phone. Maybe I'm kind of making this thing up as I go, but the point is that the function and the form coincided with each other,
right? And
then it had to sort of marry up with what was acceptable in society.
Right.
An example I give of this is I've always, like I get, if I go mow the grass, I'll be sneezing for like 2 hours. And I've always thought it'd be really cool to like just design a mask and just wear a mask while I mow the lawn. Well, that would never sell because we're post-COVID and now people think masks are like, communists coming to try to take over the world. Right. So even though the function's like totally legit, like if you wear this mask and you go out and do yard work, you won't sneeze for the next 2 hours. It doesn't matter. People will sneeze for the next 2 hours and deal with it. Right.
Sneeze like an American. Right. Yeah.
So as you say, like, I don't even know that it has to be that particular earbud. Whether it's over the ear earphones, it's in ear earbuds, all of them work. Yes. And so it seems to me that transition, it'll transition to that until there's a function that's like so good that people, I'll use the mask. Like, let's say for whatever reason, the product was a mask, right? Yeah. Like the only way to overcome the COVID, everybody
Stigma,
hates masks, is if the function of that mask is so fucking good. That you're like, I'm doing it anyway. Yeah. Because that makes me cool.
Well, that's
societal.
I agree. And I think like the little chest devices that people were wearing, like that humane pin and stuff, would never live up to that part because they would like drag down your shirt and they weren't particularly great, and they were just kind of lame. They like it looked like a nerd's prototype. Like, I made my own Star Trek pin communicator on my 3D printer, and it was just like a big lumpy thing brooch on your on your shirt. So there are a couple of things. We're over time, and I want to thank you for sticking around, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Glenn. Sure. Root Design. I love these conversations, and we missed a couple of them, so it's nice to add a little bit on. But there are a couple of things I want to hit before we go out. Here's the this might be in the realm of concern versus just reality. This was one of the things that's going to be in the news over the next little bit, and watch for this to be a distraction from Trump White House and how they're talking about this. They are rebranding the Office of AI Safety that Biden started and turning it into the Office of AI Innovation and Standards. And at the same time, this story happened. Anthropic has created Claude.gov or Claude.gov for national security customers so that they can use this AI that is safe within this environment. It does not go outside. It's these kind of parameters, allegedly. It's not quite Whopper. But this is, right? And they're not the only ones. Meta was in the market to do this. Anthropic, interestingly enough, muscled their way to the front. And I think it had a lot to do with just right-wingers on the defense appropriation team just not trusting Facebook, right? Maybe. So that's a story we will talk about as it comes out more. But they after OpenAI had already done ChatGPT Gov, which was for them as well. So they're right behind them, right? The people, the Doge guys have been talking about using Grok, but nobody will sign off on it. Like, that's the funny part, is that, and maybe this is part of the Elon Musk issue. That's it. Now, I always want to focus on this too, and we'll think about this, and then we'll go towards this next week. It's kind of like the real world implications of where this is going to. Is AI is boosting radiology productivity by 40%. Like, looking at x-rays and scanning them for tumors and illness and all kinds of stuff like that is increasing their diagnosis productivity by 40%. They're discovering cancers earlier. They are giving people a chance. This is one of the areas where AI, because of it has access to information that not only could nobody just store in your brain at all times because there's too many moving parts, but access to kind of constant updating of situations. And it's trained on the best radiology standards ever. So even if your radiologist in your hospital is okay, this as a backup adds what's effectively like if the entire team at Yale Medical Center was standing over his shoulder going, oh, you might want to check that out, because that's what they do. And it's all trained on that.
Image recognition.
Yes.
And AI is incredibly good at image recognition or patterns in images, because it can literally get down to the pixel level and understand that. So I would see that even as like a resolution advancement,
absolutely.
Meaning like your microscope could see closer kind of thing.
Yes, right. And Cosmic Rose is saying, if you have medical insurance. Here's the thing. I completely agree, but you're not writing. You got to understand, this makes radiology cheaper. No matter what they do, this is going to lower the cost of your radiology. People checking your X-rays will be lowered by this, and they'll be more accurate. Save your life, and they'll be more accurate. And it will be harder for the hospital to charge if they're using AI to do this. They're like, unless they're saying, we use the best AI in the world and we pay extra for it. And like, yeah, you pay $12. Can you give me a copy of my X-rays? I'm going to run them through, ChatGPT myself, I suppose. But it will lower the cost. Understand this. Over time, it says, you keep believing that I don't trust doctors, let alone people that code in AI. It's not about belief. They're checking it against the actual diagnosis. This is how they know. It's not like, we're making this much faster. They check people, they go, hey, I see cancer here or I don't. And then they pair it against people who actually turned out to have cancer. And the way you test this is you don't take radiological images from right now, people who are actually, in the hospital trying to see. You take actual cases that have been around forever. We have, decades of people's X-rays.
Like a history of
and we have decades of how much, when their cancer was discovered and what stage they were at, and you can run the records, you can run these scans without any names attached, just like a file number, and then the medical history attached to it with a file number, and it will go, I think they've got cancer here, 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 and here, and you can check it against what they ended up having. What was the data set they used to train the model? All the radiology information from all the major medical schools, CDC and NIH. That's free information. That's one of the things about like what we were talking about. This is data that's pulled from everywhere because it's case by case.
It's pixel-based data recognition. That's all it is. So if you give them 5 scans of a person, each every 5 years, and go back 5 scan to the first scan, and then the last scan shows cancer, and then you do that times thousands, the AI is built to find patterns in those situations.
Exactly.
And when those patterns come up, then that's how it recognizes, the first scan, that there's these spots that, might turn into cancer. Like, let's pay attention to that.
Yeah, and if there's a consistent one where you're checking it against thousands of cases, you'll eventually find out that they, this is something we consistently miss, and this will now become part of the training to look for these things. So a human would recognize it if they've seen enough evidence that kind of thing led to this kind of cancer. So again, these are the advances that are happening behind the scenes, constantly, that have nothing to do with sort of the chatbot back and forth, grokky kind of shit that we mostly experience in the consumer world of AI. And it is a legit thing. And I know people are like, why would you trust this? Like, because there's no reason, honest to God, there's no reason not to in this regard. Nobody is going to want something that judges better, that lets you know you have cancer better earlier so that they can keep your cancer treatment going longer. That's not how it works.
Like
it never would. Opinion. And as a matter of fact, if the hospital can deal with this early, cure your cancer, everybody's happy. They walk out and like, oh my God, we saved you from cancer way early before it went out. Versus we have to spend all this money and we're fighting with you and you're trying to fight with your insurance and all this kind of shit in the late stages of it, trying to haul you back to healthy from the advanced stages of cancer. That's when the problem, becomes an issue. So I don't.
Also,
hold on 1 second. I have an issue with my headphones because I was talking too much about them, so they're being a dick. So go ahead. Yeah.
The solutions that you would get early on in the process.
Yeah.
They're not as invasive. So it could simply be, there's like a couple of specs here that this model thought might be cancer. So here's what we would do: change your diet, like exercise more. Like, this is important that you do this.
Right.
And then the second scan, maybe the dot gets bigger and they're like, hey, the dot got bigger. It's probably this.
Yes.
Maybe. We don't know, but does it really hurt to change your diet just in case?
And again, one of the problems we have about this big pharma idea that people talk about is if they're all in cahoots together. There's some level of price fixing that we've heard about certain things like insulin and other things, which isn't proprietary to one of these companies. And they may all make a version of it or may all sell it, so they all kind of agree on this, kind of like oil prices with OPEC, right? But there's a difference if somebody else is specifically slow walking a cure. There's no reason why, if the cure exists, one of the other pharmaceutical companies wouldn't go, fuck this. We got the cure. Now you'd trust us with all the chronic diseases, wouldn't you? Because we cured that. There's no impetus for anybody anymore, I would argue, for any of the pharmaceutical companies to be in cahoots like, hey, we all make money. Nobody cure this. It doesn't work that way because there's so much to be gained from curing one thing because there's so many diseases all the time that maybe perhaps can't be cured, that are chronic, right? And so this idea that there's this kind of ghost, the Pentaveret cabal idea is a bit, I think, paranoid. And again, these aren't even the pharmaceutical companies and stuff that are behind this kind of stuff. This is Harvard, Yale, Princeton in league with whatever, CDC funding they can get and that kind of stuff. So I'll add that one on. And then there was, let's see if this one, where was it? Oh, this was kind of funny. This was on our way out the door. They did a poll of who U.S. adults say they side with in the Trump-Musk feud. And the article says they favor Trump. But in reality, you know who gets favored by a massive amount? Neither. But both of them suck, wins hands down. in this one, and not sure is 11. It's like, I don't give a shit. So on top of that, like there's a huge aspect of this, like 63% are like, fuck these guys. So the 8 versus 28%, look how small that is. That is Trump's bare bones backing, right?
Absolutely.
That is the absolute maggot loyalists boiled down to their absolute lowest number, maybe 26%. Maybe 2 of them are, because they're choosing between Musk, they don't like him, so they jumped over to that. And 8% choosing Musk is a real statistical problem for Republicans. That is a significant number of people who are like, we should start a third party, fuck the right wing. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, if you add Musk to Trump, that's 36%.
That's all
more
of MAGA.
like the Republican
That's
base.
it. That's all Republicans, right? And they're split over this. Even that amount of split is enough to drive down voter turnout in 2026. And again, they're going to try and turn this around. I just don't see it. So, and here's one of the reasons why I don't use Meta AI on my headphones and my glasses, and why I don't necessarily trust it to use anywhere else. Meta's platform showed hundreds of Nudify deepfake ads. Nudify is this thing that would like take the clothes off a woman. If you got a picture of her, this AI app will take it will remove clothing from like totally gross, totally terrible. And these ads ran on. And again, I would like to remind you that my show gets flagged for inappropriate content because I use big boy words, and I talk about tough issues on this show, on both YouTube and on Facebook. But they were because I'm not appropriate for the ads on Facebook. That's why. That's why they mark it. That's why you lose your monetization thing has to do with whether or not the advertisers that they talk to, whatever their standard is, you go below it, right? And so, when this is the ad, I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Yeah. So anyways,
You're not paying enough money, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'm not greasing the skids enough or whatever. But that was, one of the things I wanted to show on the kind of AI front on our way out the door, along with, again, we'll talk about this as it increases, but I asked both Grok and Gemini and ChatGPT about local AI for local governments. And they all gave me like 3 different kind of takes on them, but are similar in where they think this stuff is going. And it's a couple of years out, but I'm just going to say they all think I'm right. And it might be how I asked the question, but I tried to ask the question multiple different ways. And I want to talk about that next time, which is this whole idea of like these big AI centers that everybody's selling, which will be for the processing of the commercial grade ones, is going to be dwarfed by the small private ones and the advance of those, which will be essentially free after a certain point that, with whatever security stuff I'm sure you're going to pay for on top of it that people have, just making sure their computer isn't hacked into or for whatever. But for local governments, state governments, municipalities, schools, that kind of stuff that keep track of where everybody is, basically hall monitors, that kind of thing, or they already have cameras outside of schools that can track guns, right? They now have thank you, Joe Biden, but all the cameras that were added to schools during the Biden administration with their rescue plan, now they have AI that tracks guns. And adults, by the way. They have this thing that during certain hours, anybody who's an adult, it can spot a difference between an adult and a child depending on the size of the people at the school, and it will go, hey, maybe, and it will pop up on the screen in the office and go, hey, who's this person? Hey, who's this person? Like, okay, those are, and you can even go, that's the gardeners, they're okay, and it will stop looking, it will stop bothering them. It'll keep track of them, but it will stop announcing them, right? Your 14-year-old is adult-sized. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It depends on the school. A lot of times it's elementary schools that they use that particular one. The rest of them, it's just guns. And so somebody says, AI is fucking repulsive in all but the most clinical thing. Well, you don't realize how many clinical things you use all day long. Like a light switch. It clinically turns the lights on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I always talk about AI being like everything's called AI.
Yes.
So if you're going to like disparage AI by using the term AI. Like you're disparaging stuff that, all forms of machine learning, which
Right.
have been around for
a long time. Right. What it is
it's what makes modern society what it is.
For the record, as a replacement for creativity, I hate it. The only thing I use it for is temporary toilet paper, like comedy stuff to do the production on a silly jingle, and not because I don't really care enough about it. If I was I wrote Florida Man myself on guitar, and that I will, I'll continue to do. But if there's a 24-hour news cycle story and I want to create a blurb for something, I'll just make it in there and let it go, because it's not. It's weighed against like value versus importance to me, my time, right? And so the same thing is like whether you film a video on it or whether you just talk about it or whether you would just tweet about it. That's the kind of decision-making thing that you're going to make. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate it, Rob.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and on the 17th I'll be in Chicago, right? We'll get together for that, but I will see you next Friday for Friday Eye.
Absolutely.
And we're going to keep at this, folks. I know people have very strong feelings about it. I'm glad, because you should, because it's not going to go away. It ain't going away. It is not. No amount of screaming into the wind will make this change stop happening any more than you can make cell phones go away that way. In the 90s, I had a buddy who didn't want a cell phone. Why would I want people calling me all the time, right? That crowd, same thing. It's okay. But what we want to do is, what is available to us as a tool, you want to use it to its maximum capability for the betterment of humankind, and not just like acquiesce that tool because you're grossed out by it and leave it to the Trumps to grok the world.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Hal.
Yeah.
Thanks, chat.
Yeah.
Great to see you all.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking over a little bit. Okay. All right. Bye.
No problem at all.
Okay. Cheers. There he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Glenn, Root Design, and all of his engineering.